Love it. You always got to wait for that because you want it, you want to start, and then nope, gotta wait. So I do see folks are trickling in. So good evening. Welcome. We are so delighted to have you all here tonight. Thank you for joining our virtual event with Theodore Van Alst and Stephen Graham Jones. I'm Jessica from the Country Bookshelf in Bozeman, Montana, coming to you from the ancestral unceded land of the Apsalaki Crow, Kootenai, Bitterroot Salish, Cheyenne, Shoshone Bannock, Acheti Shikoan, Kalispel Pend Oreille, Piikani Blackfeet, Northern Cheyenne, Chippewa Cree, Assiniboine, Ani, Grovant, and Dakota peoples, among others. We encourage those of you joining us from outside Bozeman and Montana to learn more about the land that you occupy and the stories of its peoples. We are grateful to share this virtual space with our fellow Books in Common Northwest stores, Paulina Springs Books in Sisters, Oregon, and Madison Books in Seattle, Washington. Visit booksincommonnw.com for more information about our upcoming events. And of course, to purchase books like our wonderful authors' books this evening, Sacred City and Riot. You can also follow us on Eventbrite and just get all the great updates on whenever we post a new event. Before we get to our author conversation, just a few housekeeping notes. If you didn't purchase a copy of either of our authors' books with your registration, I'll be dropping a link in the chat a little later. So you can purchase either of those. Just click on the logo of your favorite sponsoring store and fill up your shopping cart. We are recording tonight's event and it will be viewable on the Books in Common Northwest YouTube channel after the event concludes. If you have questions for our panelists, you can enter them anytime. Just click on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen or leave them in the chat and we'll get to them as time allows. If you run into any tech issues along the way, usually the easiest thing is to exit and re-enter. If that doesn't work, I would zoom over to YouTube and look for that live stream. And headphones should fix any sound issues that you might encounter. I do want to remind everyone that this is a shared creative space that we want to remain safe for everyone who has joined us. Offensive or inappropriate comments or questions will see the user dismissed from the space. And with all of that taken out of the way, it is my very great pleasure to introduce our speakers this evening. Theodore C. Van Alst Jr. is a professor and chair of Indigenous Nations Studies at Portland State University. He is also the author of Sacred Smokes and its companion, Sacred City. Stephen Graham Jones is the New York Times bestselling author of nearly 30 novels and collections, and there's some novellas and, of course, graphic novels thrown in along the way. Most recent are The Only Good Indians and My Heart is a Chainsaw, as well as Memorial Ride, which brings us here today. And Stephen lives and teaches in Boulder, Colorado. So without further ado, gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Jessica. And Ted, if you're cool with it, I'll be the opening act for you. I'll talk about Memorial Ride a bit, and then you can bring it all home by reading us something, man.
That'd be cool. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah. I wish I could just like reach back and pull it out of the screen. You know, that'd be cool. But Memorial Ride, I wrote this. Man, I bet I wrote this right about 2016. I gave you a copy, Ted, back then. I don't know if you remember what year it was. It feels like 2016. It feels like it was right on the heels of that first Indigenous Comic-Con that happened down in Albuquerque, I guess it was, and came back all fired up to do something. So I didn't have the idea I would ever get an artist because you have to pay artists. And I mean, I would never ask an artist to work free, of course, you know, but also didn't have any money. So what am I going to do? So I wrote a script and I kind of overwrote it. I feel like I kind of wrote it as if it already existed. So I was kind of describing the art. And but then sure enough, I hooked up with University of New Mexico Press and Red Planet with Lee Francis there. And they found me a wonderful artist, Mariah Wolf, who they gave me a slate of people to choose from. And she drew werewolves as well as anybody's ever drawn werewolves, you know, and that's all I needed pretty much. And she started, you know how it is working with an artist. They they give you thumbnail sketches, and so there's all these like stages. Does this character look like this? Does this character look like that? And I say, well, he looks like that, but his hair's like this. And then she went through and did all the layouts, like just in, just really loose pencils, like just circles for heads. And we talked about how the eye should move across the page. And she went and in like record time, she penciled it and inked it. And it's amazing. And I haven't told you anything about it yet. I've told you about writing it. Memorial Riot is this dude, Coopertown. He's deployed over in Afghanistan, and his father dies, his estranged father. His father is in Oklahoma, and he uses his father's death and funeral as an excuse to blast home for the weekend. He gets permission. He's kind of in hot water back with his unit, but he comes home to go to his father's funeral, but that's really just an excuse to see his girlfriend. We've probably all done some version of that. Hopefully not disrespected our dead parents in that way, but we've done something shady like that, I would think. And that's totally great. Everything's working great. He gets to see his girlfriend. He hadn't seen her for a long time. Her name is Sherry Moon. But at a drugstore, they run afoul of the John Wayne gang. The John Wayne gang they're these drugstore bandits that have been hitting drugstores all over the Southwest and disappearing. They're big news, but nobody can figure out where they disappeared to. They run afoul of them, and they kind of they don't just like bump into them. They, Coopertown punches one of them really good, hurts him pretty good. So the result is they have to jump on the Harley that Cooper just inherited from his dad. They jump on that bike and they split for New Mexico, where they can sell the bike and get some cash, but they're just running right ahead of the John Wayne gang. And also the DPS now are after them. And things get worse and worse. It's just a bad snowball rolling across New Mexico, and that's going to melt pretty fast in the heat they're in. Of course, things blow up, lots of shots fired. People fall out of airplanes. People have flashbacks. That's fun, and it ends up in Colorado. They run from Oklahoma to Mexico, then they blast for Colorado. And that part of the interstate going up from New Mexico into Colorado, I've driven that road I don't even know how many times. I practically have it memorized, so it was really fun to populate it with story. And I've been through that road a few times since I wrote this, and it's always neat because I can kind of see my characters out there. I can see these stories happening in the ditch. It makes it a better drive for me anyways. What else about Memorial Ride? The reason it's called Memorial Ride is because it's kind of, in a sense, it's a memorial for his dad. He's taking a ride that his father would have taken a little bit. And there might be reconciliation between him and his father, as much as there can be when the dad is already dead, And man, that's Memorial Ride. And to tell you the truth, my very first novel, The Fast Red Road, was also about a couple of people racing back and forth across New Mexico. And here I am 20, 30 books later, and I'm still writing about the same thing, so I haven't really come anywhere. I'm just still trying to do that same thing, man. But man, take it away, Ted.
No, right on, man. That's cool. I love that description, but I like the circle back too, man. You just keep writing about the same thing, there's something that gets in there, and you're just like, and there's a lot of variations, but at the heart of it, you keep doing the same thing. And I like when you meet folks like who will just tell you what's up. I write these books, and like you, and I'm like got all this stuff going on. I'm thinking, yeah, man, I'm knocking it out. And there's like alliteration and like this really sort of, launching prose, and I'm doing all this stuff. And my buddy goes, you know what, man, you just write about the weather. All your stories are really about the weather. I've read your shit for years. It's about the weather. I'm like, oh my God, you know what? Yeah. Yeah. Cause I just did an interview for someone, and they're like, what's the influence on your book? I'm like, the weather, really, yeah, here we are again. So, man, you know what? I was privileged to read Memorial Ride. I think it was 2016 because I was still in Montana then. I remember getting this I don't even know what to call it from you, like this draft of this amazing. I was like, holy shit! And just to know that You know, that one scene from the plane is going to be in the world one day. It was like all worth it. I was like, I'll read this shit 20 times. I'll check it for every single punctuation mark you want. So yeah, Memorial Riot is really awesome. The only problem is that, like you always do, have set the bar so high. Like UNM Press is like, hey, can you do it? You know, so I write this graphic novel, like it's like 75 pair, whatever. I'm like, kick ass, you know, because I'm a comic book guy. I'm like, lots of panels, lots of and they're like, yeah, it needs to be like twice as long. Because it was like, yeah, okay, thanks, Steven. Because Memorial Riot is like, dude, it's like legit. Like, this is like he put the novel in graphic novel, bro. So like, I knew you would. So but that's out there. That's good. You make us all work harder. So that's a good thing. Yeah, absolutely. So the Comic-Con, man, that was down with Lee, and Red Planet is very cool. And I don't know if they're doing that again next year, but it would be good if we all got down there because they're doing really good stuff. You know?
Yep.
Wow. So I don't know, man, it's hard to follow up with anything you do. So I don't know. Do you want me to read a story? What do you guys, you know?
I want you to read a story. I love to hear you read. I mean, I guess it's ridiculous to say you inhabit the stories in a different way, but I think you have a way of you get through your own lines in a way nobody else does, you know, and it comes a lot. I like to hear you read it, is what I'm saying. So yeah, I say read it something, man.
Right on. Well, I signed a contract today for Audible to read this one too.
Wonderful.
So yeah,
Wonderful.
I'm pretty jazzed about that.
Oh man, that's great.
A quick story on that, like the first one for Sacred Smokes, Audible was like, oh yeah, we really want to do this, and they got a hold of the press, and the press was like, yeah, what do you think? I'm like, what do you mean what I think? Yeah, whatever you want to do, that sounds good to me. And so they said, well, according to Audible, authors are terrible readers of their own work, and so they would like some recommendations. I'm like, I don't know, can you get like maybe Adam Beach sometimes to talk like Dennis Franz? Can you do somebody who can do like a pretty dope Ukrainian accent in the middle? And they were like, well, let's see. I'll tell you what, I got this reading for my IA, send it to them. Send it and tell me what you let me know. And the next day they were like, yeah, we'll go ahead and have him read the work. Sounds like he can handle it. So
nice. You know, I heard you read before I ever read you. I think we were down at some conference in New Mexico years and years ago, and I went to a panel, and there you were at the front reading. You know, and so it was neat because therefore everything I read of yours since then, I always hear it in that same voice. You know?
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh man, that must have been like at his letter. I miss going.
Yeah, I think it probably was. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, I guess what I can do is because she mentioned like it's a companion. Is it a follow-up? Is it a companion? But I could talk about the book real quick. You want me to do that, and then I'll read a story just so people know what's up. So Sacred City is there's actually and the press won't watch this. I actually wrote the third one during the pandemic. Like, so how are you going to come out of this, right? Given the ending here, I got it all worked out. So anyway, we're good to go. And then I'll just leave it alone for a minute, which is what I say. But I'm actually almost done with a full ass novel like now. So they just don't stop, right? So Sacred City is like it's another Chicago, lots of Chicago stories. But what I really wanted to do was kind of show how the growth of the narrator, like the young person telling the stories, but also really to let folks know what a native state, how much Indian country is in Chicago, right? What a native place Chicago is. It's not New York, right? It's Chicago. It's got a native name. It's just this very native place and always has been. So some of the stories are introduced by ancestors of Chicago, and most of them are native, but not all of them. Like, Bugs Moran is in here. Al Capone is in here, just a couple of folks who are from here. So to me, I think it's really important to talk about Chicago in that way, because some of the young folks who really responded to this were like, wow, I didn't even know this, right? So it's not necessarily a history lesson, but I try to make it entertaining, like I go to the zoo with Black Hawk, right? So that's kind of a cool thing, So anyway, I'll stop just like running and start reading. How about that? So I'll just do the first chapter. So a lot of the chapters have epigraphs. The first chapter is called "The Boys Are Back in Town," and the epigraph is from the Confederated Tribes in 1752, who wanted folks to know this land is our land. and not yours. After a brief sojourn to sunny California and a sunnier Southwest, I return to my homelands. They welcome me with that incomparable Chicago humidity, wet saran wrap clinging to your face, wrapped in a smoke-soaked pillowcase. Breathing, like sliding out of trouble, is laborious, but it's my reservation, and there's no place I'd rather be, even in the summer. Because summertime in this here city means that the balls on Sheridan's horse will be painted bright cherry red, and we'll be selling bags of lukewarm old-style tall boys at Chicago Fest to tourists from the burbs while we show them the frosty ones in our styrofoam cooler of ice. And it means that the alley vomit dries quicker, even if it stinks worse while it does. And how, except for flies, we don't really have bugs, unless you're hanging in the woods by the Northwestern tracks or out in the forest preserves, which are home of powwows and sick aluminum bat fights with gaylords at 10,000 baseball diamonds. Oh yeah, summer. Mars lights blue and red, popping, piss everywhere, gunshots, screams, wind and ozone, weak warm rain that never washes anything away, tavern smells, liquor, cigarettes, pizza, bacon everywhere, ting, ting, ting of a lotto man running from the cops, laughing and drinking and browner by the day. Spanish, English, Polish, Serbian, Creole, Mandarin, Jamaican, German, Arabic, Armenian, Japanese, Russian, Irish, Swedish, Bengali, Tibetan, Yiddish, Indian, Hillbilly, Hindi, Bajan, Norwegian, Croat, French, Ukrainian, Albanian, Italian, Urdu, Assyrian, black, white, yellow, red, brown, sparkling, midnight, bright, day, rain, or shine. These words everywhere. This is Rogers fucking Park, y'all. And it feels real. Like when this one time, I'm feeling popping fresh my damn self because my girlfriend just hickeyed me a 3-pointed cross that runs from the middle of my chest down to the top of my belly button. And we're drinking in the middle of the day because we can. We're sitting on the farthest bench in Potawatomi Park. That's the one at the north end, just off Fargo, across from the community garden and looking out on the athletic fields. The sky is burnt silver and it smells like it wants to rain, but we know it won't. We'll just sweat here and wait for something to happen. And we got about 40 icy ass, but warm and fast, old style brown glass keg bottles and paper bags in the bushes, and a brick of Richard's Wild Irish Rose, fresh batteries in the boombox, and all the girls are there, which means we're stuck listening to whatever they like, Commodores or Diana Ross or Kool and the Gang or some shit. But we'll see how long that lasts once we start getting drunk. So we're just chilling in the park, nothing much going on. We talk shit, make fun of each other, the usual. Everyone's hanging out. Jade, that run that J and that D together and say it, Jade. Jade sits on the top slats on the bench next to me, and he trots his leg like he just did something bad or is thinking about something worse. All the Jimmies are there, everyone's girlfriends, even Freckles is there, that fucking ginger hillbilly. And that dude really never looked quite right to me, you know what I mean? Shit, his skin is like Band-Aid colored. What the hell is that? I relax, I read a little. When it comes to books, I want to be buried with one open over my face like I fell asleep reading and it just plopped there. I got this new one from Jackie Collins. It's probably Chances. It had that fine ass Lucky San Angelo in it anyway. And I study the dialogue. I love that shit and Jackie is the best. I need to take my mind off stuff. Late yesterday sucked. It was a dark night, man. I was feeling desperate. I tried to sell my soul to the devil and he just leaned in close and laughed. He put his lucky strike out in the back of my hand and walked through my bedroom door. Fuck that guy. I look up and I see Montel heading our way from Rogers Avenue. His nickname is Bubba. He doesn't like that, but it is what it is. And anyway, as you can imagine from the name, he doesn't move too fast. I chug the rest of my beer as I watch him make his way across a baseball diamond and then the grass. I open another and light a smoke. He's still coming when I finish the bottle and reach for a replacement. And I'm halfway through that one when finally, what's up, Teddy? You see it, brother? Cool. What's up, folks? He makes the rounds with everyone, shakes hands sideways, drops a crown, teaches them all the different ways to shake hands like royals. Montel is a Farwell and Clark Royal. I'm originally from Tuian Ridge, the branch that had members who would eventually make up the core of his branch. I'm a few years older than him. I've been a warlord, a vice president, and a president of the Pee Wee set. Most sets of Simon City Royals back then had futures, Pee Wees, juniors, and then seniors. I still hold it down for TR, my original set, because that's what you fucking do, at least the way I was taught. When you gonna go FC, Teddy? Never, Montel, you know that. I laugh. Come on, man, stop fucking around. His eyebrows tense. We'll see, folks, I say. What about these motherfuckers, he says, hands thrown wide, face relaxed. I can't say, Holmes, I say they need to get initiated in. Well, let's do it, he smiles. They're chicken shits, I say. Man, fuck that. Freckles pops up. I was a pope. I got jumped in at, man, be quiet. Me and Montel both say. And I have one of those times where you decide to do something, you know, the ones where you're out of your body watching and go, what the fuck is coming out of my mouth right now? And I say, let's do this, Montel. Let's show them how it's done. And so while experiencing my astral projection moment, it occurs to me that this is actually a really bad idea. 2 or 3 days ago, I got into it with Chupe down by the Howard Street L. We go to school together. And since there's me and all the other royals that dropped out, it's really just me. But see, that story I told you about Lord Black and the conservative vice lord from before, so no serious worries. I sometimes have to listen to his shit because there's an assload of kings from multiple branches there. But now it's summer and all bets are off, so fuck him. We humbug for a bit. I tagged him in the face a couple times, but he got a nice shot in on my ribs and I heard a crack, so score for Chupe. But man, that shit hurts and I'm aware that this could be a problem, but I'm a little bit drunk with a whole lot to prove. Who knew? I decide to demonstrate a simple initiation. It goes like this nowadays. You face one guy, you bend forward, and he leans down, full Nelsons, you wraps up your arms and whatnot, and everybody else pounds the living shit out of you, feet, fists, elbows, whatever, until the first guy calls it and tells him to stop. Usually, if your face isn't buried in his gut, enough blood runs out onto the ground under you, and they can see it's probably time to stop. Make sure you don't yell or holler too much, because that'll just make them mad, and it gets a little Jack and Piggy sometimes. Montel handles the initiation. I'm trying to teach these guys something, right? So remember, my girlfriend had just hickeyed that 3-pointed cross on me, and I got to represent. They give it to me good, but not that good, because none of them have been initiated before, so they got no real sense of vengeance or pain. When I got jumped in as a future, it was in kid's basement. I was 11, turning 12, and I walked into this blackout room where Twat promptly roundhoused me in the face. That was his signature move. I knew it was coming, but it was a pitch black room, so I never saw it. About 10 juniors were beating the shit out of me so bad, kid had to follow me, tell me to protect my nut, and took 3 or 4 shots to his own head that were meant for my face. I got a little break in the nose, lots of blood, one hell of a shiner, the title of warlord over the protests of kid's own brother, and a walk home with the hottest girl in the set. So sometimes it pays to just shut up and take it. This time ain't shit compared to that, except someone found those ribs. Fuck, man, Bubba, tie this shirt around my chest. It's a Dago tee, so there's not much material. Shit, I step on the bottom edge and I pull up on the straps, stretch it out and hand it to him. Cicadas drone, and I think I see a twist of steam above the grass out in the soccer field. Someone cuts off the 3rd in a row play of Paul Revere's Ride, and I pull the shirt sideways across my chest, give Montel the 2 loose ends, not 2. He yanks the leads together, his knee in the middle of my back. Hard, I say. He pulls a little tighter and I hear bone ends grind. My left eye waters the line of nerve and muscle just below the skin of my face, pulling diagonally down my body to my right side. I feel a click as he ties the ends together. Damn it, half my cross is covered up now. It's kind of funny, but does it hurt? Only when I breathe. I can forget about laughing for a month. The endorphins are great, though. I'm high as a kite. It's way better than when you're getting fucked up and you smack your head against the brick so you can get that little bit of your body's own opiate production. The external catalyst is always better, comes with a bigger rush, and right now my brain's trying to OD on its own shit. So we cut the music back on, and now it's Judas Priest and Sugar Hill Gang, and then Triumph, but we booted that shit. We knew even then that they sucked, and years later I booed them at an Iron Maiden concert for talking shit about devil worship. Not because I give a shit about devil worship or was even a Christian, but because no one ever took up for Lucifer. And after all, as Saul Alinsky said, we really should pour one out every now and again for the first guy to rise up and successfully demand his own kingdom. I perch on the top slat of the bench. It's one of those ones that sits on rough concrete legs with 3 wide planks at the back painted brown and 1 long plank for a seat. That fine urban design. I tap my foot on the seat part, ratty ass black Converse high tops with wide royal blue B-boy laces, and Bubba walks over, shakes his head. Damn, midget, you're looking rough, brother. I think you're scaring these boys. I say, but I don't laugh because of my ribs. You got to let us have them? You mean for Farwell? I say, yeah. He smiles. Montel is one of those voices where he always sounds like he has a chest cold or something. It makes him sound emotional, but he ain't. Shit, I say, they ain't mine. I ain't trying to start no set. I just like chilling over here at the park. We still hang here sometimes, he tells me. I said, I'll always hang here. I tell him, this is Potta fucking Wadameat Park, bro. So you ain't coming with us? I told you, man, I'll think about it. So I say, now drink with me, brother. I say, trying to deflect. All right, midget, he says. He hands me a beer. You know what? He says, what, motherfucker? Why are you looking at me like that? Then he tells me, Tiger and the rest of those crowns from Howard Street are fixing to move on us. He heard it from one of the Colombian Ashland King's sister who works in a new place called Taco Bell. But I was worried a little. You know, the first time you get the breath knocked out of you and you think you're going to die, somewhere between that and the first time you're in your 20s doing coke and you finally get a chest pain, you're sure it's a heart attack. In between there is this itchiness of realizing your own mortality. It doesn't bug you enough that it's consuming, but it's when you start making little deals with creators so you don't unexpectedly die doing something stupid. I take too big a drag off of smoke, and when I cough, the edge of one of my ribs reminds me how vulnerable I am right now. I look around me though and I feel okay. I look at my boys and our girls and I know that we are far less a lost than a deserted generation, but we're on this fucking island together, and yeah, we're gonna be okay. We celebrate that fact for a while. The wood on the bench just to my left frags out and splinters pop up in slow motion, and I can see a curl of smoke behind where a bullet has dug its way into the wood about 2 inches from my leg, and the pop registers in my head. Motherfucker, Tiger's here. I look up and over across the community gardens, and Tiger, Taco Jr., and a couple of their white boys are moving our way quick, like Tiger's fucking with the slide on some automatic piece of shit he probably found in a dumpster. Ha ha ha. Jammed, I think. Fuck you. And Taco Jr. is looking over the top of a revolver. This prick is the most Indian looking dude I know, but there ain't no brotherhood here. Man, I hate this son of a bitch. Jade, I say, you strapped? No, he kind of mumbles. I'm like, what? You always got something? The cops took it this morning. He shakes his head to flip that mess of greasy hair out of his eyes. Shit. Freckles pulls out a 25. Give me that. I grab the piece. I turn and pop off a couple shots at Taco Jr. and the windshield in a 1980 baby blue Regal collapses. The other hits something that makes it make that pew sound like in the Westerns. The Coronas duck behind the line of parked cars. Run, you motherfuckers, I yell at everyone. And this 25 is a regular shorty clip, so I only got 4 shots left. The girls grab the boombox and 2 of the Jimmies grab up the beer. I appreciate their sense of priority. Remind myself to thank them later. Pinche cabrón, I yell, chinga tu madre, bitch. My next shot takes out a headlight. I see Taco Jr.'s long black hair blow back from around the edge of the hood he's crouched next to. Just missed. And Tiger still ain't got his piece of shit figured out, so it's me against Taco Jr. and a dusty-ass revolver he probably got from Pancho Villa's stash. I walk backwards kind of quick, like 2 hands on the 25 extended out in front of me. The Kings are still hiding behind the cars. I sneak a look over my shoulder. I see Montel herding the crew toward the field house about 150 yards away. When I turn my eyes back in front, I see one of the white boys stand up next to a black Caprice. Pop! I take out its windshield. Man, the sight on this thing sucks. Fuck, I think somebody's going to be busy with all these glass jobs later. He ducks back down. I'm already halfway to the building, and these Kings are fading fast. Right when I think we're clear, though, Tiger figures out his jam, and pop, 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 3 shots whiz by. I don't hear anybody yell, so we're all clear. I'm still moving quick like, and I yell, Royal Love, Key Killer, Queen Thriller, all that shit, and I turn and make the corner toward the tennis courts. For some reason, I think of how we catch bumblebees in the morning glories that cover the chain link that fences everything in. How we pinch the end shut while the bees are busy, shake the shit out of them trapped in the petals, then set the bees free into the trash can where they promptly take it out on one of those fucking yellow jackets. I look over my shoulder and I see them standing around in the street yelling and talking shit to each other. I know they won't come all the way in here, so I relax. The 25 is too hot to stick back down my pants, so I shove it in my back pocket. I creep to the edge of the fence and watch him walk away, arms waving around his crappy Spanish and worse English swear words drift my way. And I laugh a little, light a smoke. I get to the tennis courts and I lean back into the pale blue morning glories, tilt my head up, close my eyes. And then I'm like one of those kites you can buy at Open Pantry for 79 cents, the ones you put together made out of paper and pine dowels. And I'm a vulture with 2 big yellow eyes and purple-black wings that drifts up on this warm, eye-watering wind and watches down on it all happening to us. It's still only all I can do. Yeah.
Thank you, man. That's amazing.
Thanks, man.
And I know y'all all love that, so everybody's gonna go buy Secret City. And I was gonna get Secret Smokes so I could hold them both up, but my Secret Smokes is gone again. I bring my books to class to show them off, and
Right on.
And then sometimes they make it all the way around class, and sometimes somebody raises their hand and says, "Hey, can I take this?" And I always know I'm kind of saying goodbye to that book.
Right.
You want a book to walk too,
I used to lend to people, and I'd be like, "Hold it up! I'm gonna take your picture with this book,"
Yeah.
And then you have like who took it, but
yeah,
dude, nah, it's
yeah.
I just buy extras that I don't plan.
Yeah, exactly. But man, I think UNM should hire a blimp to float over Chicago and just like drop these down everywhere. Man, I'd love to see one of these like on by the cigarettes in a rundown gas station. Man, that would be the perfect place.
Dude, I was like, I gotta, you kind of have to do your own promo, right? You know, the small press like that. So the press got me some bookmarks. I was like, that's cool. But I went and got a bunch of temporary tattoos made out of the book cover. So that's my swag. So if you get a book or whatever, maybe I'll order to the bookstore and I'll send you a stack over to the bookstores or something.
Excellent. Hey, what can you tell us about that cover? That is a very cool cover.
Wow. So this would be one of your tribesmen. So Laura Monroe did the first one, and then for Sacred Smokes, and then this one for Sacred City. So I really love Laura Monroe's work. Lauren is a Blackfeet tribal member. He's on council now, so I'm never going to get another paint out of him, right? But no, he's a really good dude, really good artist, screenwriter. He does a lot of different projects, and so I was looking for a cover for that. I have another one of his paintings, which maybe I'll go for the third book, but when I was doing this painting popped up, and it's called The Power of the Tongue. And it's about that. It's about tricksters. It's about just wild shit in the world. It's about the stories he said he would hear, like walking down Cutbank Creek and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? I get this is the real deal. And then Felicia Cedillos, who does their book design, did an amazing job with this. Right? She pulls all the ravens and the crows into the book, and just amazing. She's a really great designer. So
yeah, it does. And the table of contents it's like, am I remembering correctly? Yeah, let's see. Yeah, it's black. I love that black with white words. I like that.
Yeah. And then really the author's page, like black, like my author's heart. So both of them are black. I'm keeping the silver ink pen people in business, right?
Yeah, I know. I always have to carry silver pens around too for that.
Yeah.
Hey, and I should probably confess here. Maybe it's a half confession. I don't know for sure. But I read Sacred Smokes back. It seems like 10 years ago, but it can't have been that long. Man, it had to have been like 4 years or 3 years. I don't know. But when it was in manuscript anyways, you know, and I was writing My Heart is a Chainsaw, this book at the time. And I have a character in here, Jade, and I always wonder if I stole Jade from you, you know?
Yeah, I know. I like Jade, you know, and I'm trying to think, like in this one too, there's a story in here. I know ain't nobody that I was in the military with is listening, but the story in here where the god of death or the god of war comes back because they don't pay homage to him and he kills all the people. Those are all my officers when I was in the Navy. Except for the sergeant who's Lonigan, who's your man Lonigan.
Oh, that yeah.
So he's the only, because he never dies, right?
Yeah, he doesn't, man.
He's object permanence, man.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
You know, I probably told you this. I meant to write a whole series of stories with Lonigan dying in each town, but he's alive in the next town. You know, but I never got around to it, man. I need to do that. Yeah.
There's a whole graphic novel series for you right there, man.
For sure, man. For sure. Right. I like how they gave us like similar colors on our book covers too. Like they go together,
right?
I know, that's so cool, man.
I saw that, and that color, I was like, you know what? I mean, you went to school too. Like I went to school like early 2000s or whatever. And the first native lit class I had, I was like, we're sitting there. I was like, shit. So I said to all the students, I was like, oh, y'all hold your books up. Everybody hold your books up. And all the books we were reading were that. Remember Indian Red in the Crayola box? They were all that color. So I saw this one. I was like, oh shit. But it's kind of a variation on that. So it's like an update of Indian Red books. Right?
Yeah. Like, what is it? What they call it in the Crayola box? Burnt orange? Is that it?
Yeah. Burnt umber. Yeah. But man, when I think with UNM, with the press, man, they what's cool is like your book is number one in the catalog, man, the fall catalog. Like you're number one.
Well, we're side by side, aren't we? Yeah.
And so the color just really pops. And there's that Sacred Smokes blue, right? So that blue is just, man, it's in the world. It's they did good stuff. I think
it's going to be cool. I actually didn't know that you'd done a third book already. It's going to be cool to have all three of those on the shelf if I ever get my first one back, you know.
I'm going to send you another one. I think Shane's out there. Shane, I'm sending yours tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to the post office. So if y'all want a book from me, tell me now and I'll go out tomorrow. Yeah.
Hey, you know, since I mean, you do the audio book for this, and also it's in first person, and the main character is Teddy. Do people always just assume that this is like memoir, autobiography?
Yeah,
they do.
They do. And a lot of times,
yeah. And I mean, I'm sure that there's pieces from your own life in there. That's what we do as writers. We smuggle our own lives onto the page, you know. But um, it's always, I've had people do that to me too, and it's always weird, you know, because I know that it's made up. I know that there's real bits in there, but the structure is sometimes made up, you know. And
Yeah.
it feels weird, man. Yeah.
You have to. I mean, you're a writer. You're not
Yeah.
like, you know, it's a different kind of thing. I mean, at the root of a lot. That's the thing. I mean, and I know that you do. I've seen you do it. Like you've got your little pad, and like somebody says some stupid shit walking down the street, and you're like, oh yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
And you take notes, right? Because and
Yeah.
that's where the stuff comes from. And so for me, a lot of the stuff though, like shit is just playing in my head, and I'm just trying to keep up, writing it all down, you know, and the names, it's hard. I mean, a lot of those were real people. When I was doing the first book, like I was Googling, like, it must have been pretty morbid for my FBI agent, like, fired, what's with the funeral homes and shit. But I looked up and like everybody was dead. So I didn't have to change like character names and stuff like that. I was worried, you know, except for one. And there's one in there, and that dude is still alive, and he's in prison, and he was like, you know, he's like he's there forever. Like he took out the back of this dude's head in a trailer park with a 20 gauge. And I'm like, that dude ain't, but you know what? If anybody could get out, it's him. So I'm changing the name in the book because for real, you know. But
you know,
it's
I did.
hard to
It is.
Okay.
You know, I did a book, 8-9 years ago, and it was set, like, the main character is Stephen Graham Jones, and it's set where I grew up and everything. And I knew that I was gonna have to like change characters' names, so I got a legal pad and I drew a line down the middle, and I wrote all the characters' names on one side, and then I wrote their fake names on the other side, so I could know who was who, you know. And, and then I published the book, and I was cruising around Texas, ran into somebody from back home, and they said, "Hey, how did you get permission from Pete's family to use his name, because Pete's dead?" And I said, "Man, how did you know that was Pete?" And they said, "Probably because you called him Pete." And I had used the wrong side of the column for my
Man, you know what? I did this on the third one too. I went and I did like a universal, like, find and replace, you know, the name. And then I read it back and I'm like, it sounds like shit. It doesn't work, you know, it's just not working. So I'm like, what am I gonna do? And
the funny thing is, it works for other people because they don't know that Gary used to be Jonas, right? You know. But for us, it feels like, well, who are these aliens? You know,
right? Yeah. It's like when you put tile down in your bathroom and you fuck up the corner, and your wife's like, nobody will ever know. And you're like, every time I'm on the shitter, I see it. That corner is messed up, right? How can you not see that? Writing, yeah.
You know, I like how in Sacred City and Sacred Smokes and whatever you're calling the third one, but don't tell us now. Let it be a surprise.
All right.
I like how I feel like, how to say it, like the Chicago you're talking about should be in a museum, because I think the Chicago you're talking about doesn't exactly exist anymore. You know, and I like that it's like a time capsule of a really. It feels like the way you write about it, it's a really vibrant time. You know.
Man, you know, I teach and I talk to students, and you know, and I'm like, dude, the 70s, the 80s, man, dude, the dope was really good. Like music, like radio was wild. You could hear just about anything you wanted on the radio. It was before the rise of all this corporate craziness, you know, and there wasn't, I know, I feel like I'm stuck in like an Instagram. Did you grow up in the 70s and 80s? But for real, you know, you would leave the house at like the break of day, and sometimes you'd be gone for a couple of days, and your parents were like, "Oh wow, you're still, you know, are you hungry or whatever?" But there was no, they didn't care. They just didn't. And so it was a really different time. And that's not to say that like terrible stuff didn't happen to kids, you know, and maybe we just didn't hear about it, you know, because like Gacy operated in my neighborhood where I grew up, and it was terrible time. But still, there was just it was just a different time. The music and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. You could listen to Triumph, right?
Right. You could, you know, No Shame, you know, I guess if you wanted to. But yeah.
I bet that you talk about the tracks a lot. They hang around the tracks. I bet the track scene is probably similar now. You know, it seems like rail yards stay the same. You know,
they do. They're pretty. Yeah, they're pretty constant.
Yeah.
They are. You're right. I mean, because they're this moment, I mean, they're very transitory spaces, and I think maybe so much moves back and forth that nothing around it changes ever.
Yeah.
There's no reason for it to.
No, there's not, man. There's not. But there's a lot of stories in that soil, in those rocks, man.
Yeah, all that flint, you know.
Yeah.
Flint. It's a hard rock, man. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I remember I had a friend in high school. He thought it'd be a good. Well, I don't think he thought it'd be a good idea, but he fell asleep on the tracks, and sure enough, here come a train, cut his leg off, man.
Just like that,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I had the worst time I would take the tracks everywhere. It's a great artery, right, to get through
Yeah.
the neighborhood
Yeah.
and stuff. And it was winter one time, like real heavy snow, and there are 3 sets of tracks, and the outside tracks, the 2 outside tracks are like northbound, southbound, and then there's a center track that express trains will run on. But that's only at a certain time of the day. So one day I'm walking, I'm on the outer track on a southbound track. And I'm just walking and it's snowy. And you know how it is, like, it was like cotton in your ears, you can't hear anything. And so it's pretty lumbering behind me. And I look up over my shoulder and there's a southbound train coming. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I got time. It got really close on me. I was like, I'll just head over to the other side of the tracks. Now there's an express train coming the other way.
Man.
Going north, like
yeah.
70 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I stood in between them like this. And dude, it was that dry powder snow like you get in Montana. I was just coated. I was like crystal. It was like the thing. But I thought I was gonna die for sure.
For sure. 13. Well, I mean, those big wheels, they throw junk, you know. Like,
the buffering from the oh my god. And I wasn't very big. I thought I'm a goner, you know.
Yeah.
I could feel a little lift.
Yeah. I lived in Colorado for a year in high school, my junior year, and we figured out, my brother and me, that if there's a train that was about a mile behind our house and back in the trees, and it slowed down for a curve. And if we timed it right, we could jump on that train and ride it to within, about a half mile from school. And it was a good time. It was like a 20-minute ride, not long. But the bad thing is you're hanging on the side of that train while it's going pretty good. And it goes across one of those like Stand By Me bridges, and so it's like 200 feet behind you. Yeah, it's pretty terrifying. It wakes you up before school, man.
Man, we used to go. Oh, you were in Texas when you were a kid, but man, we would go skitching all the time in the city.
What's skitching? I don't know what that is.
So skitching is like after a snowstorm and you hang off the bumper of a car. You get down low so they can't see you, and you just take that car to work or whatever, right? You're skitching on the back of the car. Most people from Chicago, they knew that shit, but the best ones were the buses. So if you could get like the big like Clark Street bus before they plowed or whatever, you could ride on the back of the bus, man, and they would haul ass. It was great. Wow. It was really good. It was cool.
Oh, man. We used to, when I was up here in Colorado in high school, we'd go up the mountain and wrap our boots and pants and duct tape and get ski poles, and we'd ride the scree slopes down, and there's just the whole mountain moving with you. And man, it was you always come out bloody and torn up, and you have near misses with all kinds of stuff, but it was a good time, man.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Because in skitching, if you slip under, man, you're pulling salt rocks out of your ass.
Oh man.
That was
Well, hey, Jessica told us 45 minutes and then questions.
So there she is.
5 minutes. Yeah.
Let's do it.
As if summoned. Well, first I want to thank you for that absolutely magnificent reading. That was such a delight. It was absolutely great. And our first question comes from Catherine. I'm glad to hear that much of what you write is made up, because otherwise it breaks my heart that your lives are so violent. Sorry, but I'm an older woman who has always been a peacenik and working towards all people's working things out somehow so that we can manage to get along together. Am I totally Looney Tunes?
No, I mean, the impulse towards peace is the best impulse probably. Yeah. But I mean, I think the way to get there is often brutal, it seems like.
Pacification. The gangs, this obviously some stories are like, yeah, that's definitely made up, but a lot of them are, it's just a memoir. Like I remember when I wrote the first one, which is like this one, and Elise at the press was like, what is this? I'm like, it's like a memoir, like 90%. She's like, oh no, we're never gonna be able to something like that. That's terrible. Can we just, I said, okay, then it's fiction. I don't care, whatever, it doesn't matter. There's a, So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, speaking of names, a friend of mine says that she writes creative nonfiction. and that the names are changed to protect the not so innocent. So
Yeah.
there
That's
you go.
right. That's
Yeah.
right.
You mentioned form a little bit, and one of the things that struck me about Sacred City and Sacred Smoke was the way that you play with form. Like it's almost the kind of thing that you would expect more out of like a poetry kind of genre. I'm curious if you could talk more about why that was like, why it comes out that way.
Sure. Thanks for noticing. But B, like, I mean, we've talked about this, Steven's talked about, there's like, I love poetry, but there's like 12 good poets in the world. There's a lot of trash. There's a lot of really super crappy poets. Like, no shame on people who are aspiring, but that's a really hard thing to do. But for me, like my youngest was like, oh, I want to be a writer, Dad. What should I read? And he had books. And I said, oh, I gave him like Jim Carroll and I gave him Bukowski. And then I went, holy shit, like you're about this poetry thing, right? And so for me as a prose writer, it's really important in telling a story is to get the reader to understand you're telling them a story. And because I'm not there in the room with them, what do I have available to me? I have voice, I have breath, I have space, you know, I have indentation, I have, you know, punctuation, I have things within the text that I can do to make people stop and to like they would if I were telling them the story. So it's really, the form is really, to me, I send my stuff to the press as a PDF. And my copy editor and I have had a long time. And he's like, I get it. And so when he sends it into the press, he's like, do not touch any of this. This is exactly how it's supposed to look, because I'm really serious about the way it looks on the page too. It's important. So
yeah. Well, I mean, when you read Ted's prose, what he's doing is he's doing the best version of his voice in text, you know, and it's really hard to do, and it takes a lot of attention, a lot of balancing and honing and sharpening, and I don't know what it takes, because I can't do it, but it takes a lot, I think.
Well, I feel like that's also why audiobook producers often say authors can't read their books very well, because of that like gap in attention.
And the penchant to edit as you go.
There is, yeah.
I had 5 uptakes on the thing. Like I did it, and they had me for 2 days, and I did it like 6 hours. The guy's like, I was like, is that bad? He goes, holy shit. No, I'm gonna buy you lunch, and then wow. And so I said, well, I wrote it, I should know how it goes, you know. And but the only thing I had was like, I'd fix like a word order on something. He's like, no, you have to say it exactly how it is in the book. But other than that.
But when you're in the studio or in a with a mic, like, you know, recording the audiobook, you still use hand gestures and stuff to make it feel alive, don't you?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was one point, and he was like, cut. I was like, what happened? He goes, can you redo that? He goes, I wasn't paying attention. I was just like waiting for what happened next. I was like, shit. So if we could just redo that one part, I'm like, all right, fine, no problem. So yeah. But yeah, I'm in behind the glass, and I'm like, it must look crazy, right? If all you have is a dude in the cans, and I'm waving around. Yeah, it probably looks pretty nuts.
Joshua asks, both of your writing styles are so unique and vibrant. Did anything in particular inspire your styles?
Wow.
Man, yeah, that's a big question. Everything inspired my style anyways, you know, like everything I've encountered, I think I'm either pushing back against it or trying to steal it, you know. In particular, if I had to list a single inspiration, it'd probably be Robert E. Howard, who wrote Conan, because I think his stuff is so active on the page, and that's what I always dream of doing. I dream of just having as much life in my sentences as he did.
Yeah, man, Robert E. Howard, holy moly. I mean, I stole every Robert E. Howard they got, and then the replacements too at Chicago Public Library. You know, and, I mean, I'm not an indulgent guy, but I did scour like eBay for the set for the Ace Lancer. I just got it like a couple months ago. The original covers, the whole nine. Yeah, it's like $68. Ooh, what an indulgence! But man, totally worth every penny. So I have that original. I think Joshua, I'm thinking like for style or whatever, and Steven stylistically, man, just blows me away. He's a writer, you know. I'm like, maybe I'm telling a story, but like like I have to do all these things on the page, but Steven's characters just do the work, right? You instantly are like, oh my God, dude, your voice, the characters are just amazing. So having said that, when I think about the style or whatever I'm doing, I think about like novels. I'm not a huge fan of novels. Like I did some interviews and they're like, what are your stories? And it's all stories. It's all just, you know, like these shorts and like the jaunt and stuff like that. I mean, it's about, you know, these quick. So when I think about what I'm doing here, like people are like, it's a mosaic novel. I'm like, or is it a lyric novel, right? Because it has the memoir, it has all the, right? So that's something new here. Not a lyrical novel, a lyric novel. But when I write, I guess the difference between a novel, which to me is like a filmmaker, is like a movie, is a novel. I write TV, man. Dude, I write like, you can have like a quick smoke, like, and watch this episode of Sanford and Son, right? That's the story, that's a chapter. So I think I write more TV minded than movie. So the inspiration for me is like, I like to pick up a book, read it. I only have so much time and set it down, and that's done. Like I don't like having to go back a few pages to pick up the story again. I like shit's just done. So I guess, yeah, I write episodically maybe. So that might be.
Episodically, but it accumulates too, which is cool. You know,
it's a whole season, right? I like that. Thank you.
Royce says, Stephen, you said that the Chicago that Theo is writing about could be in a museum. It's a city, land, environment, and people during a specific time. For both of you, do you have places you go besides the train tracks to go back in time for inspiration?
You know, yeah, the thrift store. I spend a lot of time in thrift stores, and everything in the thrift store is 15 years old. You know, and it I mean, a lot of it's older than that too. And whenever I'm walking through and looking at the furniture down at my local one here, I remember that furniture from when I was a kid, you know, and it's nice.
We called it the alley furniture, right?
Yeah.
Shit that your parents just, you should take this plaid couch or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like the one that they don't want to get rid of.
Yeah.
Every time I go to Goodwill, I think of Dr. Jones and I go like to the knife case. Like, what do they have? Like Dr. Jones was here. He would like to have this. Right? So, yeah, man, the influence is strong. God. Royce, can I answer your question? Wow. I think the park. I think that Potawatomi Park. I can always start a story there. You know, I can sit on the bench and then wait for a story to come. Right. Or I can just hop on the L, which I guess kind of doesn't count because of train tracks, but I can get on the L and go somewhere. And then a story will come while I'm sitting there waiting to get wherever I'm going. So yeah, it is about that. Whether it's motion in time, like we're at thrift store, like, or yeah, I guess it's a motion thing, right? It comes to you. Right.
You know, that waiting for a story to come to you. I was listening to somebody was being interviewed, a country singer who had hung out with Willie Nelson down on Galveston Beach. And he said they were sitting there around the campfire. Willie had a guitar, and he was just picking out amazing melody after amazing melody. And the other musician said, "Have you been working on that for 6 months? What's going on?" And Willie said, "No, man, I'm just reaching up here and pulling them out of the air. The melodies are everywhere, you know." And I think that's how stories are too. You don't have to like do muscles and stuff. You just like sit there and pick one out and go with it, you know.
Yeah. I started, like I said, I was writing this short. The L was just like a little vignette, and then like my boys started getting on the train with me. Hey, what about that? And so now I'm like at 38,000 words. It's the longest single sustained story I've ever written in my life. I'm like, we are approaching novel length here, right?
Yeah,
because it's just, and I'm still not done. I'm like, fuck, we still have to fight with 2 vice lords, and I still have to go make supper and shit. So I still have all stuff I have to do. So I know I'm going to cruise in about 45,000 at least.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm in.
Yeah. You can always, like, if there's a Billy in there, you can make him be Billy Joe, and then you've got a global replace, and you got so many more words, you know.
Exactly. Oh, right on.
Absolutely. Shane asks, Ted, do you write slowly to get your seemingly stream of consciousness stories down the first time with minimal editing afterward, or does your mind just get it down that way the first go round? AKA, what's been your process with Smokes and City? Similar both times?
Wow. All right. Good question. Good question, Shane. Yeah, I'm that kind of writer that, like, some nights I'll write like 40 words, but those are the 40 best words I got. And some nights I'll write like 3,000 words, but every one of those are sticking. They're done. I'm a super edit as I go. Like I look and know and look and know and look and know. I'm real just, when I write. So the stuff that comes to me like that those long ones, and that's the whole point of writing is to write all the shitty grocery lists and like, and haters lists and all the people they hit until those words just come out that you don't have to force. To me, that's the art. That's what you're looking for.
It is. Yeah, like E.L. Doctorow, he said somewhere that when the writing is going well, it's like taking dictation from God, and that's the feeling you want, man.
Yes. It happens. And sometimes you can get there some night, because I only write a few nights a week. I don't have time. So I set aside some, I write from like 1 till 6 in the morning, right? A few nights a week. And some nights it's there and it's like great, and some nights it's not. And I'm like, I think I put on Twitter, when it's just not that night, go edit your shit, right?
Yeah.
Just not that night. You can always pull out 40 or 50 just out of your last work or what. So you just edit, so you're always working.
Yeah.
But those nights when God's like, I got something to tell you, you better have your shit ready and a battery charge and ready to go. So yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the process, man. That's it. I'm sorry, Shane. I hope that answers it. But yeah.
I feel like they might be running out to try to cut that into a soundbite. So like your text message rings and it's like, I got something to tell you.
Right on. Cool.
Wonderful. Well, that is what I have at the moment for questions, and we are approaching our time, so I'm gonna let it linger. I just want to say, Stephen, I had to put once Only Good Indians in the freezer because it was too spooky. I had to close the door on that. It also unnerved my husband when he opened the freezer and there was a book in there. He's like, what is this doing? Like, it was spooky.
Nice.
So if you need a spooky read for spooky season, Stephen's got a few. Don't forget, there's links in the chat to get your copy of Sacred City and Sacred Smoke. There's that blue and red.
Oh yeah, right on.
I was mentioning, and of course, Memorial Ride.
Yes. Get
both. Just
get Memorial Ride. Yes.
Thank you so much to UNM Press for putting this all together for us. And thank you both of you gentlemen for joining us tonight. It was a pleasure. I hope sometime in the future we can do it all in person.
Where are you guys at in Bozeman? Where are you at? Because I'll come visit. I gotta go that way all the time.
We're right on Main Street between Wilson and Tracy.
So are you on the east side of 90 or on the west side?
West side.
East side. So the west side's where the east side's where the Starbucks and McDonald's and shit is. So you're on the other side, the west side.
We are further east than McDonald's and Starbucks.
Okay, well I can make that trip then.
The best pair of boots I ever got, I got in Bozeman, man. Still got them.
Right on.
My family is my family lives down in this area.
Yeah.
So I too have made many a journey from New Mexico to Colorado and back and forth. So
very cool.
It was wonderful to see those places in the novel. But thank you all so much for joining us this evening. Don't forget to buy books. And we'll see you all again next time.
Okay.
Bye. Thanks for coming, y'all.
Good to see you, Stephen. Thanks.